Welcome, folks, once again to another session of Let's Chat with me, Meor Addelan. Life is full of excitement. One of the things that we can never forget to do in life is to laugh. Yes, laughter is definitely the best medicine. We're going to be talking about the life of a comedian. But the problem is right now that it's very hard for comedians right now to actually stay relevant, to try to accommodate to what you guys want. How can they actually make a living? And to talk about this, we have a very good friend of mine who will be talking about who's laughing now. We have, ladies and gents, let's welcome Mr. Funny Man, Kavin J. Hey, Kavin, what's up? Now, let's dive in straight away to what we're talking about today, who's laughing now. But before that, I want to ask your experience during the hiatus, during the peak of the COVID-19. That must have been a terrible time for you specifically as an entertainer, as a comedian, isn't it?
Well, basically everything was shut down and everything was, basically nothing happened for me over this time. Whatever projects that I had already planned has been, delayed or, cancelled. And it was a very difficult time, like those 3 months. Basically, I was a house husband. Well, my wife was at home as well. But the thing is, at least she had a job. So it wasn't that bad for me in a sense. But it was difficult because as I explained to you earlier, comedians are like, they're like addicts in the sense that we want this live shows to happen, and without those live shows we feel empty, and so to speak, it was very empty for me. Like, we couldn't do shows. We could do shows online, kind of like the Zoom calls and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, it's never going to be the same. It's like riding on a roller coaster, but on VR. You're sitting on your chair, like, oh, it's not the same. Your mind tells you it's this thing, but you don't feel the same. So it's one of those things where it's like a placebo effect, but it's
A lot of people may not understand this. Being a comedian is definitely being the funny man, able to actually educate, able to convey that funny message down to the audience. Now, is it as easy as it seems? Because all you need to do is be a joker and just put you on stage and have a mic and they're entertained. Is it that simple?
no, it's not. It's not actually that simple. But the answer to your question is yes and no. Now, it's simple, as in the fact that all you need to do is make people laugh. That is your number one job, right? But however, if you look closely to what a comedian does, a comedian actually holds a mirror up to society, as in the fact that, look, when we talk about problems, when we joke about certain problems that we are having, it's not only we are joking, but we're also letting you know that, look, this is actually an issue, and maybe we should start a conversation about this. Because, look, if it's gotten to a point where, all we have to do is mention it and everybody laughs, then maybe there is a bigger situation on how, this needs to be handled. And this needs to be, like, for instance, racism. Like, when we talk about racism, or people always just say, like, oh no, this comedian is just talking about race. No, we're not. We're talking about, the stigma of race that happens to us, or the stigma of racism that happens to us. Or, we're talking about the bigger issue of, like, let's say, look, we are parodying real life. We are parodying what is happening out there. And the reason why people laugh at this is because people can relate to the situations that I'm putting forward. So if you take away the layers, it's like an onion. If you take away the layers, there's a deeper layer to every single joke. No matter how simple you may seem to think it is, there's always a different layer to what is going on. Like, for instance, if you talk about, the stereotype of, sometimes Malaysians being lazy, for instance. I'm not saying that is a stereotype. I'm just saying, like, giving an example. The fact that, look, that stereotype exists is problematic to begin with, right? Because obviously it's one of those things where you see people who are lazy. That happens every society, not only in Malaysia. You see it in every society, but the thing is, the stereotype is so strong that, people can tend to think like, oh, yeah, that is true, right? Because people relate to the situation. But then, later on, after you're driving back from the comedy show, and you think to yourself, like, yeah, he said Malaysians are lazy, but when I think about it, I know this guy who's not lazy. I know this guy who's very hardworking. Yes, there are one or two people who are lazy as well, but then you realize to yourself that, maybe we need to realign our stereotypes as well.
But what you're trying to say is that, I mean, like, being a comedian, you're not just a funny man. You're not just a joker on stage. You have more responsibilities in trying to convey that message and trying to get it sink into the audience and make them realize that, yes, it is a joke, but what is behind the joke? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, what I'm trying to say is everybody, not only comedians, every single person out there who has the power of voice, who has a voice that people listen to, have a responsibility to the society to kind of give your message. Now, what this responsibility is 100% up to you, right? Now, you look, it's very easy for me just to say like, oh, I'm a comedian, I'm just supposed to make people laugh, ha ha ha. But then you see comedians going to jail for what they say. You see comedians getting into trouble for what they say. I mean, obviously, you don't see the same thing happen to other people, but you know that's a whole different what do you call that discussion for another day. But what I'm trying to say is, look, with freedom of speech comes responsibility. With if you have a power, if you people are listening to you and you are talking into a mic through a speaker, people are listening to you, and if people are listening to you, you have a responsibility to yourself and to society to kind of say, look, this is the message I want to get across, this is what I want to tell people, this is what I want to make sure that, look, that it turns around to me. Like, for instance, in America, right, we have the alt-right, the people who basically don't have very good morals, in a sense, because they also have a responsibility. They have a responsibility to say, but the thing is, can we take away their freedom of speech? No, because it's America. Apparently they're born with freedom of speech. You can't take it away, but the thing is, they have to learn that responsibility of what they're saying is irresponsible. Yeah. What they're saying is destroying a society. In the same vein, a comedian doing what we do, we can easily say like, oh, we're just making jokes. No, we're not. We are actually talking to people, and people are listening to what we say. And in a society, you cannot judge a person by the smartest. You have to judge the society by the lowest common denominator, which is why we have laws like don't steal or don't drink and drive, or stuff like that, because there are people who don't drink and drive. You don't need those laws, but this is the lowest common denominator, the people who don't understand that this can be dangerous, that we have laws like freedom of speech, or laws of drink driving, or laws of don't steal, or don't hit someone.
As we all know, I mean, like, you as a comedian, you are given the chance to be on stage and talk about anything, and given the chance to make jokes about a lot of things. But when you are in Malaysia, the fact that you are a Malaysian, when you're addressing the Malaysian public, there's only so much that you can talk about, versus the people in the States, in the UK, they could literally say anything that comes to their mind. They want to touch about politics, they want to touch about racism, they want to touch about every single thing they are able to. But why do you think this is happening in Malaysia, that there's only so much that you can say? And is this a good thing as a comedian, or as a Malaysian for that matter, Kavin?
No, again, this is a wide range of the question is very vague in the sense that, look, is it a good thing to have freedom of speech? I believe so, because again, with freedom of speech comes responsibility, and also the fact that, look, there's a lot of people who in Asia, not to say Malaysia, in Asia, who are not ready for complete freedom of speech. Because if you can say anything you want, you have to take responsibility of what you say. Now, a lot of people think that freedom of speech comes with the license to say anything. No, it's not. It's the license to take responsibility to what you say. Now, that is the issue. The issue is that in Malaysia or in Asia, a lot of people just go, I'm just going to say it. Especially you see it in the internet now, with social media and stuff like that. People hide behind the anonymity of social media and basically go like, oh, I can say anything I want, and there's no repercussions. There's no consequence to what I do. And that it's a very toxic place to be. So society, if we have total freedom of speech, it becomes a very toxic place as well, because people don't take responsibility for what they say. However, I'm not saying that we don't need freedom of speech. We do need freedom of speech, because we need freedom of speech enough to make conversations happen about difficult situations. Because if we cannot talk about certain things, at the end of the day, it comes back and bite, because let's put it this way: young people are not supposed to talk about politics. Every time we talk about politics, they turn back to us and say, hey, you still a kid, or you budak-budak lagi, apa you tahu, right? And it becomes very difficult for us to voice our opinions. So in that sense, we need freedom of speech. We need enough freedom of speech for us to kind of have that conversation and say, look, this is not right, or this is not good, or this is something that we need to change. But however, there must be limits to what you can say, because you can't come out and say, look, you can't come up with Nazi ideology and not take responsibility or not take consequence to what you are saying.
I mean, like it or not, Kavin, I mean, like, you could have been a super household name here in Malaysia, because why? You've been in the industry for far too long, as far as I can remember, ever since you've had hair, and now you don't have hair anymore. So, but the problem is right now, I just want to get your opinion on it. It's not actually a problem, but it's all about fitting in the demographic, fitting in with the masses, fitting in with what people want at the end of the day. Versus, the Malay comedians out there who are making a name out of themselves, who are, living it up there, able to actually, having a very, lavish kind of lifestyle. But you are still here. Granted, you have a Netflix special, but it's harder for you, isn't it, to actually make your name here in Malaysia, because all you can do is actually convey your jokes in English. Am I fair to say that?
No, it's completely fair. And I've tried doing my jokes in Malay, obviously. But also the fact that, look, the westernized version of comedy is very different to the localized version of comedy, which is more slapstick, which is more, kind of, skit-based kind of situation. But however, looking at it, personally, what I tend to do is I tend to do a more westernized based comedy with the Malaysian sense of humor. And the only reason I do that and not, let's put it this way. If I would have done Malay comedy, and I do well in it, easily I could be a household name. I could win, competitions that you see on TV, and basically, make a lot of money, get to the mass media and stuff like that. But however, I chose this path because I don't want to be a household name only in Malaysia. I want to be a household name in the world. Like, I want to be Kevin Hart. I want to be, Russell Peters. That is the names that I aspire to be, rather than, just locally, just Malaysian. I feel that my vehicle is a lot better if it is, in English, where everybody can understand what I'm saying. Like, I can go to India and do a show. I can go to China and do a show, because there's a lot of people speak English there. I can go to US, UK, do a show, and people will understand the Malaysian humor a lot better. And that's what I want to do. I want to spread the Malaysian humor to the world, rather than spread the Malaysian humor to Malaysia.
To any aspiring comedians out there who's starting to come out from the roots and wanting to make a name of themselves, wanting to get into the industry, one advice that you can actually share to tell them, how can they make it as great as you are?
The only advice I can give is work hard and never stop working hard, because at the end of the day, no matter what, like, I've been doing this for 14 years and I'm still working hard. I'm still trying to learn social media. I'm still trying to do this and that, and it's a lot of hard work. You can be doing comedy for 5 years and still not get paid. But that's when people drop off, the fact that, look, I've been doing it for 5 years and still not get paid. Yeah, that's how it works. The industry works in a way that, look, you need to go through your way to kind of make yourself into something. Like, you have to go through that 4-5 years of not making money, going through open mics, being a better version of yourself before the audience looks at you and go like, oh, that's funny.
Kavin J, thank you so much for coming on to the show. It has been insightful. It has been delightful. And here, I'm wishing you all the best, and may all your success come very soon in the future. Kavin, take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Meor. Bye.
All right. That was Kavin J, folks, talking to us about how difficult it actually is to be a comedian, and it's not super easy for you to become one. And what's important, as what he has mentioned as well, be responsible in what you say on stage, because at the end of the day, you are a spokesperson. You are given the chance to speak on the mic, whatever message that you convey out there. Yes, you can say what you want, but be responsible of the words that comes out from your mouth. That's it for now, folks, on Let's Chat, this particular edition. Hope to see you again next time around. Take care. Bye-bye.